everyone, it's Coach Christine and welcome to our special midweek Thanksgiving edition of Christine's Kitchen. So I want everyone to think back to when you were growing up, what was Thanksgiving morning like? Were you the kind of family that got up really early and went outside and did something active and were a turkey trotter? That was not me growing up, by the way. Kind of is now, but wasn't then. Were you the kind of family who sort of lazily got up to all of those warm, savory, and sweet smells in the house as the breakfast and was just getting going and the turkey was just getting put in the oven, and you curled up onto your couch in your pajamas and you put on the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and then as soon as it was over, you would go outside and play football in the cold? I mean, that sounds pretty amazing if you ask me. So what I want to do is give you guys a great recipe that you can do either or. Whether you're that avid, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna run a 5K in the morning, or you wanna have the lazy morning in on the couch with your coffee and the perfect pastry to start the day, or maybe a combination of the two, we've got the perfect recipe in store for you. This is so easy, it takes just a matter of minutes to put together, and it bakes for about, I don't know, 30, 35 minutes in the oven or so, but rest assured that if everybody is sleeping while this is baking in the oven, it almost has the same impact as bacon. Yeah, I said it. The aroma and the sweetness and the fresh baked pumpkin pie smell that's going to be making your house just wow. Yeah, it's gonna happen. And you know what, if you really want, throw some bacon in on the side and nobody will resist your breakfast of champions. So let's get right to it. What we're going to be doing is a pumpkin pie filled puff pastry. Pretty simple. And then we'll make a little bit of cream cheese frosting, drizzle it on the top, cut it, pair it with a cup of coffee, and you'll be good to go. First thing is first, for your filling, that's where we're going to start, you're gonna take 2 cups of pumpkin puree. So for the pumpkin puree, it's just literally get the can of pumpkin and make sure that it's puree, not pumpkin pie filling. Add that to your bowl, and then with that, we're going to take 1/4 cup of sugar and add that in. After that, you want to take a single brick of cream cheese and add this to the mixture. Cream cheese is by far the hardest thing for me to open. Don't ask me why, it just is. But you know, once it's open, it just sort of does this magical fall out of its container right into the bowl trick. So I'm okay with that. And 3, 2, 1, voila, easy as that. All right, so you've got sugar, pumpkin, cream cheese. What's next? You need a little bit of pumpkin pie spice. So you're gonna open it up, take 1 tablespoon and add that in. When it comes to your spices, honestly, you really can't go over the top. It all depends on how you like your pumpkin pies. If you like to have a little bit more of kind of that sweet and spicy and the warm aromatics that come with it, if you like it a little bit richer in flavor, add more seasoning. If you like it a little more bland, well, there you go, there's your answer, add less. So you'll take 1 tablespoon of the pumpkin pie seasoning, and then we're gonna add in a teaspoon of nutmeg as well as a teaspoon of cinnamon. There it goes. Last but not least, let's grab the cinnamon. Now, one thing that you need to keep in mind, you want to have your oven heated to 375 degrees. And most importantly, your puff pastry should be in the freezer until about 30 minutes before you are ready to use it. Do not thaw this in the microwave. You want to set it on your counter at room temperature for 30, 40 minutes max. Otherwise, 1, it'll be too cold. As soon as you go to open it up, it's going to crack and break, and that sucks. Or 2, it stays out too long or goes in the microwave to thaw, and it gets this really gooey, gross texture, and that also sucks. So, 30 minutes on the counter. I've had mine sitting out while I was getting my ingredients together. It should be about time for that. We're just gonna turn the mixer on, mix these ingredients together, and we'll set the bowl aside, and we'll be coming back to show you how to prep the pastry. Okay. So when you're making the puff pastry itself, each container is going to have 2 of them in it. So we'll just see how much filling I have, and if it makes 2, add a bonus. If it makes 1, well then I've got a puff pastry treat for another recipe later. Here we go. So you're gonna take it out. We'll just set the extra one aside until we need it again. Carefully unfold it. It's still gonna be a little bit frozen feeling here. Take your extra paper out. And you're gonna add just a tiny bit of flour to this, just to give it a dusting, and that way you can roll it without it sticking to the rolling pin. Same thing, dust the rolling pin with just a little bit of the flour. We're gonna use it on top of a parchment paper, and that way also we can transfer it straight from the parchment paper onto our baking sheet. Makes less mess, makes it a lot easier to transfer. So you're just gonna take it, and we wanna gently roll it out just to smooth the seams, add a little bit of just doughiness and malleability to the dough. Yeah, I know that sounded redundant. It's okay, it's Thanksgiving, it can be. So we'll just roll this out a little bit more. And then after that, the last thing you wanna do is grab a knife or a pizza cutter. I usually use a pizza cutter. It's probably the easiest. And we want to cut into this because the idea is that we want to be able to fold it in half, but I want to tuck the inside in so it's going to look like this cute little loaf of bread almost. So if you come about 1/3 of the way in on each side and just score it a little, you're going to cut approximately 2 inches in to each side. That way, once we add the filling, you'll be able to fold those ends in, and then we'll take one side up and over, the other side up and over, seal it with a little bit of moisture. We'll score the top, add its topping. It's gonna look amazing. You will see as we get going. But in the meantime, you just wanna make sure that if you're here, you've got about this much space, so not too much, so that that centerpiece can just come right on in. All right, I gotta go back and get the pumpkin again. Okay, we've got the dough prepped, we've got the pumpkin, let's put it together. So we just take it, and you're gonna fill the center portion of the pastry. Just like so. Basically, it's gonna make it look like a pumpkin meatloaf, for lack of a better description. You're gonna create this fancy little pile of pumpkin. So it's gonna be enough as if it were sitting up like a pumpkin pie, because keep in mind, this is combining like your breakfast croissant and a pumpkin pie into one thing. Mind blown, I know, it's very exciting. So you wanna make sure you have enough filling, but not so much filling that it's gonna overfill it. We do have enough to make 2 of these pastry rolls this morning, which is great, so I'll have enough to send one of these to work with my husband tomorrow. So his coworkers will get a little Thanksgiving treat too. Okay, so we've got our little pile in the center, and now what we need to do is fold up the ends to bring it in, and then we're gonna lift the top up and over, just like so. And then bring the other piece all the way up and over, and we're gonna take the bottoms and fold it underneath just to cinch it. And now it's gonna look like you got this little burrito. But wait, there's more. So first things first, what we need to do, now that we've got it set nice and perfectly here, is score it. So take a knife, and we want to add a pretty design. So today I'm just going to do little diagonals across the top to create a crisscross pattern. So once it bakes, this little pattern will bake right into it. Here we go, and do it diagonal in the opposite direction. And then last but not least, one of the most important things for this crust to get flaky and buttery and golden brown and delicious is actually to create an egg wash. Now, since we're doing this non-dairy and we're doing it without egg, there is a great trick to it. You could take your soy or almond milk, put it into a little bowl. To that, you're going to add a little bit of maple syrup. Now, I've done this with pure maple syrup, as we are doing today, or you can substitute sugar-free maple syrup to save on the calories. For the tiny little bit that's going in here and being brushed on, honestly, go for the real deal. It's not that big of a deal. So, take a little pastry brush, mix it up, and we're just gonna brush this on. So instead of basting your turkey, you're gonna be basting the pastry. So come on over here, make sure that this is fully coated. Just like that. We'll check it about 20 minutes into the oven, but it should cook for about 35-40 minutes overall. You want it to be cooked throughout the center, and the top will be a nice, beautiful golden brown. If it looks like the top is starting to burn before, well before the time, just cover the top in foil and then let it get golden those last 5 or 10 minutes. So it's pretty much as easy as that. Grab your baking dish, transfer your parchment paper onto it, and get it in the oven. Okay, let's check in and see when it comes out of the oven. It's gonna be amazing. Stay tuned. So while we're waiting for our pumpkin pastry to cool on the stovetop, we will get our icing going. So you need just a few ingredients. You're gonna need a stick of butter, a brick of cream cheese, some powdered sugar, milk, and vanilla. Very simple, super easy to do. So what we're going to do, it's one stick or half of a cup of unsalted butter. Add that to your bowl. And then you will also add in 1 brick of cream cheese. Let's get the wrapper off. And for the butter and the cream cheese, I like to bring it to room temperature before I use it. It makes it so much easier to mix. So go for room temp. On the cream cheese, my hands are now greasy from the butter. It's gonna make it near impossible to open. Have a towel nearby. Yep, folks, this is real life in Christine's kitchen. She can't open the cream cheese. Let's try that again. Much better. Now we can get into it. Maybe start with the cream cheese and then add the butter so you don't have this little fiasco that I just had. And if that's the worst of the fiascos that happen in your kitchen on Thanksgiving morning, bingo, that's pretty awesome. Okay, after that, you're gonna take about a tablespoon of vanilla. Honestly, I just hold it and pour it for about a second. I don't ever measure it out anymore, it's just sort of by look. Then you need your powdered sugar. Now, it all depends on how much frosting that you are going to be making. I'm taking approximately a half of a bag here. So you're looking maybe at 3.5 cups all in. So just take that, add it in. You might need, depending on how thin or thick you like your frosting, you may want to add a little more or a little less. You can just kind of go in and do this in stages and see how much you want. After that, the only thing that we want to do is add a couple of tablespoons of milk to this. So let's start out with 4 tablespoons just to get it enough moisture to be able to mix up. And then we can add a smidgen of milk at a time as we go, should we need a little bit more. That's it. Take your mixer, turn it on, and mix this together. You want to make sure that it's going to end up as a kind of a very smooth, creamy, but thick enough that you'll be able to pipe this through a bag. If you like to have it like a really fine glaze, add more milk and then just have a really light glaze. Also, if you like the glazed feel to it, make sure that you put it on top of your pastry while the pastry is still warm, and it will melt into it and just create a glaze on its own. But if you like to have a thicker frosting on top, then make sure that you let your pastry cool all the way, and then you can pipe this through a bag and frost it no different than you would have a thick frosted cookie or a cream cheese pumpkin muffin or icing on a cake. Okay, moment of the truth is here. It is time to ice these beauties. Take a look at how amazing those came out. They look delicious, scrumdiddlyumptious. True story. Now, I had said pastry bag. Rest assured, if you don't have a pastry bag, neither do I. So here's what you're gonna do. Take your frosting, put it into a good old-fashioned Ziploc freezer bag. Make sure that it's sealed. And then you just push all of the frosting down to one side, squeeze it to create your own little pastry bag. That way, everything goes to the tip here. Now, all you have to do, take a pair of scissors, gently cut a small piece off of the tip, and we're gonna take the frosting and drizzle it back and forth over our creation. And it's as easy as that. Well, these are ready to be enjoyed. We have plenty of frosting left over. It can go back into the fridge. Make sure you put this bag into another bag so that you don't have a frosting disaster in there. But it can go back in the fridge and then be used on your pumpkin pie or decide to dip some fruit in later, depending on how indulgent you want your after Thanksgiving meal dessert treats to be. So we will set that aside. Here is your finished product. Absolutely gorgeous. And this is sure to be a win-win for everyone in the house. Well, that is it for our Thanksgiving special. On a personal note, I just want to wish all of the very best to everybody out there. I know that this Thanksgiving is going to be difficult for so many families. Zoom meals just aren't quite the same. And in a world today that is just so divided, my wish for everyone is to be kind to each other. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for staying with us today. From my kitchen to yours, have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we will see you in December for some December fun treats.